back to another video. Today we are going to make some predictions about what's coming up in Tier 10. So my first prediction is that we're going to see it either released at reset or announced at reset, and then we'll be able to get in there in the next 2 days. But specific, just kind of going off what we have as far as the notes right here. New zone and raid coming in, changes in balances to DPS and tank players, changes to PvP and GVG, and a new hinted at familiar feature. So let's get at it. As far as the new zone, the previous zones have been 2 regular dungeons. Here we go. 2 regular dungeons and a special dungeon with a special ancient item that you can craft. I'm thinking we'll either get another weapon or we will get something different, something weird. I'm thinking maybe like a special mount. So you have the prestige of the mount, you've got the cosmetic, as well as a mount will not break or make it more difficult to fit in different sets and different builds. Personally, I would like to see maybe what I really want to see is some different ancient material that allows you to eat the Starweave ring, and you put that bonus directly onto the character. Kind of how familiars and fusions have their own little innate buff. So if I go to fusion, I click on this guy, he's got these little innate buffs on him. He's always going to have a power chance, he's always going to have a quad strike. It would be nice to be able to kind of eat that ring, because the ring has such a buff that's so powerful. If you're able to get it, every build is going to want to run that ring. It might take a ton of materials and whatnot to be able to get the final upgrade where you can eat the ring and have the bonus. I know it's a ton of power creep, but you know, that's what ancient items really are. So that would be interesting. Low chance of that happening, but man, that would be pretty cool. And then you wouldn't have to constantly tier up the Starweave ring forever and ever and ever and ever. So I should probably show what the Starweave ring is for people that don't know. But this, you can make it into a ring or you make it into a necklace. But this bonus, if you could some way just attach it to your character without having to have the item, and then carrying this up through all the tiers that are yet to come in the game, that would be pretty cool. Pretty broken, but if everybody gets there, then, you know, it is what it is. So, new zone, 2 dungeons, 8 flags, special dungeon. That's what I'm thinking. As far as this guy right here, previously they have used flag bosses and dungeon bosses in the new content teasers. Some people actually think that this might be a world boss, you know, like a little bit of a twist or a surprise. I'm thinking that he actually will be in the raid coming up, just because the background's so involved and it looks so cool. With world bosses, the background here is static. I don't know if that's a tell or not, but that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking that yeah, he's gonna be the actual world boss, and I'm hoping similar to Raid 6 that Raid 7 will have its own mythic fusion, and that all the components for the mythic fusion will be within that one raid, so that we're not going back into old content. That would be really cool. Since we had a tank previously, I'd like to see a damage or a healer. You know, that would be awesome, but we shall see. This guy looks pretty cool, and I wouldn't mind having something like him on my team. Going back to World Boss, so let's go here. With World Boss, there's going to be another tier. That means there's going to be another set for each of these guys, another mythic item for these guys. So that'll be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see, over here in PvP. So they mentioned they're changing the PvP system and the rewards. The way it works right now is if you have 2250 total stats, you can receive the maximum amount of rank points per win. Having more total stats beyond that only gets you harder or longer fights, so it does not behoove you to have higher TS. And what players will do is they will take off their armor, drop down their stats, and try to have faster matches that way. An easy way to fix that would be to raise the cap so that more total stats get you more reward or rank points. Hopefully do something a little as well, something else that's a little bit more interesting. Would be nice to see there. But that is PvP. For GVG, they mentioned that they were doing GVG changes as well, so we come over here. In the last GVG, well, first off, GVG suffers from the same issue that the cap is the same, 2250. If you have stats beyond that, you're only getting harder or longer fights. And with GVG, since it's all players, if you run into a lot of tanks, you can have these fights that just go on indefinitely until you hit a sudden death mode. And in the last GVG, we saw a 50% bonus damage buff to the GVG, and bonus damage is special in that it avoids or it ignores damage reduction. And so I think that was a guinea pig run so that they can kind of test that out and see how it'll work in the future to kind of bridge the gap between DPS and tanking. But that's what I'm expecting. I think they'll raise the stat cap. They will they'll add in that 50 or 100% damage bonus in here and try to find that sweet spot to make GVGs a little bit more doable. But moving on, let's see what else. Familiars and fusions. Well, actually, let's go into the shop and let's talk about pets. So they mentioned the rebalancing of tanks and DPS characters. I'm hoping that they won't be as nerf heavy, because nerfs never feel good, especially for something that you've either earned or like purchased. And if they nerf tanks enough, it makes running raids almost just not doable, and they would have to rebalance all of the content around that. But if they buff DPS, then I see a lot less work having to be done there. And one of the things they can do is they can buff the accessory. They can just give a ton here. I don't expect too many changes, hopefully not too many nerfs on tank accessories, but if they put a sizable buff in here, that might make a difference. But it still doesn't change the limitation of not having redirects and deflects. So if you do a ton of damage, you get deflect, you just still kill yourself. And if you don't have any redirects, you're still going to die as well, and that's that limiting factor. But one thing that we don't see used a lot is we see a low utilization rate of the offensive pets. So if they did a significant buff here, that could help DPS characters, as well as increase build variety and some diversity in the game, which would be nice, and you'd get more utilization of these guys. So that's what I'm thinking. I think that'll be part of it. It might not be the major change. I actually think that we'll see the biggest change between tanks and DPS players in solo content actually in fusions. So let's see this guy. The big limiting factor in solo content is that a tank player can get so much more out of their pet and out of their damage reduction, their set and all that, and as well as redirects, that the tank familiars and fusions just can't keep up. 22.5 damage reduction is nice, but there's no pet effect on this guy, and we've started to see that in expedition fusions. But there's no pet effect on this guy. Damage reduction is low, really limited, and if your tank's just getting torn apart, it doesn't matter how much damage you're doing, your team is going to ultimately fail on that solo content. So if they did a massive buff to all the relevant tank fusions, that would probably be the biggest step as far as closing the gap on solo content between tank and DPS players, without changing everything such as world boss and raids and all that. They would not have to rebalance that as much. It's probably less than what a lot of people are hoping for, but it's what makes sense to me, and I think it's going to happen. And then the last thing with familiars, the special feature, I think it's going to be some sort of a pet battle system where you can make teams solely based on familiars and fusions, and you can play against other players. It would be easy for them to scale it down. With duels, nothing is scaled, so if you have 1,000 total stats and you're going against someone who has 4,000 total stats, it is what it is. But with the familiars and infusions, if they can scale it down in some comparable way, that might be some sort of compelling content there, or maybe for special events. Hopefully it has more of an impact than something like fishing, but I think that's it. That's all I got. So I will see you guys in the new tier. I'm excited. I'm hoping it's coming out right after the reset. But post your predictions down below. I would like to get some discussion going and hear what everybody else is thinking. We've been talking about in the Discord a good amount. And do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, all that. When I talk to developers, it's a lot easier to get traction and get their attention as far as community events and giveaways and whatnot if I have more people subscribed and watching the videos. So do the thing. I will see you in the next video, and I hope I will see you in Tier 10. So appreciate you watching, and on to the next one.